Starting today, we have a 5-part special report from the land of pyramids and sand dunes, Egypt, to explore how the arid country uses and reuses resources. Today's segment focuses on the ingenious ways the Egyptians used to maximize the potential of every drop of water. Known as the gift of the Nile, Egypt owes its existence to the longest river in the world. On my right is Egypt's most important river, the Nile. Not only is it the cradle of Egypt's great river valley civilization, it is also the source of the fertile black soil along its banks. Bustling with most of Egypt's agricultural activities, the Nile Valley and Delta, though covering only 4% of the country's land, is home to 99% of the population. Lush vegetation ends precisely where the black soil cuts off, expanding into a dry, barren desert that stretches for miles on end. For 5,000 years, Egyptians have been actively devising ways to maximize the use of their lifeline, the Nile. At the ancient temple of Edfu that is more than 3,600 years old, there is a tunnel with a slit at the end through which water from the Nile flows in. The height of the water in the tunnel would tell if the river water is high this year, which means a good harvest can be anticipated. In ancient times, Egyptians gauged the height of the Nile to determine how much trace minerals and nutrients would be deposited by the flood to fertilize floodplain. Nowadays, the Nile is less of a barometer and more of a source of agricultural irrigation.
Actually, it takes almost 80% of the water of the water budget in Egypt. But the water system in Egypt is 95% dependent on the River Nile. The water system in Egypt is as old as the country itself, because without the River Nile there should have been no Egypt at all.
The desert country's modern hydraulic system is also powered by the waters of the Nile. Located in the south of Egypt, the Aswan High Dam was built around the 1970s to control the flooding of the river and forms one of the 7 biggest reservoirs in the world, Lake Nasser. Water from the Nile is delivered to the lake through a main canal, which is then channeled to other distributaries that flow northwards, sending water to the capital Cairo and other cities and towns. Farming accounts for most of the water usage in the country, so water saving must begin with agricultural irrigation.
Convert the earth canals from which farmers take water to irrigate their fields into a lined canal, a plain concrete lined canal. And if you reduce the water area of the canal from the big earth canal to a smaller lined canal, then you reduce the area of water exposed to the atmosphere, and you reduce evaporation, and you also reduce seepage from the sides of the canal.
The African country has come up with more ways to minimize waste.
For the precise leveling of land by laser beam, so when the land is leveled, water will not run on the surface of the land and go straight from the canal to the drain.
Land leveling in Egypt is done through laser beam technology, whereby a prism inside the laser transmitter rotates to reflect beams to create a plane of light that are intercepted by a sensor on the tractor, which interprets the signals to determine whether to raise or lower the drag bucket to smooth the land. This practice ensures minimal seepage of irrigation water on the land and in turn doubles the yield. And the wastewater from farming irrigation does not get thrown away.
The government stipulates that all farmlands must have a tank to collect wastewater that is high in salt content. This water is then sent to the treatment plant to be recycled and reused.
The fertilizer-infused wastewater from the farmlands is the main pollutant of the Nile. In order to make use of every drop, there are more than 200 wastewater treatment plants throughout Egypt. However, the Great River faces yet more threat from climate change. Before, Egypt's summer lasted around 3 months from June to September. Now the hot season is 6 months long, causing the Mediterranean Sea to rise. The inhabitants of the Delta area bear the brunt of the weather abnormalities.
A great land, a great castle will be disappeared, like Rashid, Edfina, a great area of Dumyat city.
For this desert nation, a comprehensive conservation effort perhaps holds the only key to protect Egypt's shrinking homeland.